Hello and welcome back. And now we are moved past Sheila and Mike for Why Did I Get Married? And we are now talking about Sheila and Troy. So we're picking up on Sheila and Troy's relationship. Sheila and Troy met, if you recall in the previous one, that when she was driving up the mountain, her car got stuck that it couldn't go up the mountain past the point of where the tree had fallen. So she had to stay the night at the sheriff's station. Troy worked at the sheriff's station. He told her you can't get up that hill without them plowing it, so you're going to have to stay here for the night. And she was like, oh, wow. I ain't never stayed in no prison before. He said, well, technically you still haven't because I haven't arrested you for anything. And she was like, but she was talking to herself rather negatively. And he's like, wait, you here on a couples retreat, but where your husband at? He said he went on ahead of me and blah blah blah. He's like, if you was my wife, I wouldn't have let my wife go on without me. She's like, you drove up here and he what? He flew? It's like, well, it was a bunch of other stuff. And he said, I wouldn't have never did that if you was my wife. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And then she was making some comments about herself, like, I'm a big girl, and I know you can see that I'm a big girl, and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, that doesn't bother me, though. I mean, unless it bothers you. And she was like, okay. She hated the coffee. And then she came up there with Troy the next morning. So the remainder of the trip, her and Troy barely even spoke to each other. He did not really have any engagement or conversation with her until after she busted Mike upside the head with the wine bottle. He comes to the hotel and tells her, you left your keys in the door. And she's like, did I kill him? I hope I killed him. It's like, you know that he only left me $26 in my bank account? $26. That's all I got to my name is $26. That's it. He took everything. And he let her talk. And then he took her out to one of the mountains that overlooked the view. And he said, when I'm in a headspace where I need to clear my head, I come up here. He said, so I decided to bring you up here. Maybe it would help you. He said, well, she's like, what do you do up here? He's like, if I need to have any type of moments, like when my father died, XYZ, I felt hopeless. I'll come up here and I would scream and I would do all this kind of. She's like, did you cry up here? Because that's all I feel like. I feel like I lost everything. And she stands there and she cries. And he just stands there and lets her. So time passes and she calls everybody back and tells them she ended up staying in Colorado because she didn't have no money, so what is she gonna go back for? Pause. Those of your people that sometimes God will lead you in a certain scenario. He's just trying to get you someplace, and he kind of puts you in a scenario that you kind of gotta stay there because he's trying to bless you in that place. Troy was there. Some of y'all, your God a dang spouse, you probably went right past them. There was somebody you engaged with, had conversation with, so on and so forth. Maybe not even somebody you had conversation with. But they certainly saw you. Mm-hmm. but you weren't thinking about them at the time. That's how it normally goes. So, Troy let her work at, like, it was a shop that belonged to his family that he had to close down, but she needed the job, so he helped her get the shop back in order. So once they got the shop back in order, got the inventory back together, she ran the shop and he ran the sheriff's station. Perfect match. So she working at the shop and people coming in and leaving and so on and so forth, and she watching him in this particular way, and he's like, well, I think they talk about that they could go exercising together, but he trying to have a conversation with her, and all she thinking about is Marvin Gaye and his abs, while he trying to have a conversation with her while he was doing something in relation to the shop. I think he was putting something up on one of the shelves, and she was just, y'all know, God done shown you your spouse, and your spouse look all dreamy and hot, and you like, are you sure that that's the dude? And there goes the Marvin Gaye music again. So he says that he would love to go jogging with her, and he invites her out to jog. They go jogging, and they afterwards go for a meal, and they're sitting there talking and waiting on their food to come, and he invites her to go to the movies with him, and he kind of letting on, I'm kind of interested in you, if you didn't notice. And he's like, every opportunity that she tried to deflect him, he kind of, I'm still here for you. She's like, but I'm like this big girl. He's like, why do you talk down to yourself all this time? Well, I mean, I don't get that. You can't make you feel good to talk down about yourself. Why do you think this makes me feel good to hear you talk about yourself like that? And she's like, I really didn't notice. See, that's what a God-ordained spouse will do to you. A God-ordained spouse will help you notice your flaws and help you heal them instead of being repulsed by them. And then he comes and he kisses her. And she ends up in a mode of like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. Can we pray? And he's like, pray? She said, yes, let's pray. And he's like, okay, let's pray then. And they and they sitting at the table praying. To those of y'all wait on your day spouse, that first kiss gonna make you have to pray. Oh God. But yeah, she was like, oh Jesus, let us pray. So they go and they exercise. And what else? We don't see Sheila again until the end of the film, and she's lost all the weight. She's in the bathroom and she runs into Trina. Remember, Trina is the girl that was supposed to be her friend that Mike left her for to get with Trina. And Trina's like, oh my God, Sheila's that you? And she's like, oh my God, Trina, how have you been? And then she's like, don't even worry about it. It's like, I'm sorry. Don't. It's a situation of, she kindly puts her down and says, make sure to stay away from the wine bottles. Just stay away from the wine And Sheila goes to meet with all the other ladies, and they're like, "What you doing here, Sheila? Oh my God, you look at you, you look amazing, blah, 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 blah." She's like, "Well, I kind of stayed in Colorado." And me and Troy started hanging out with each other. And me and Troy got married. For some of y'all, just like Sheila, you gonna disappear on your people? They hadn't seen her the whole time. She and Troy been gone for the longest, and now she coming back with a ring. Not a ring, the double ring. You know, the rings. So it's a situation of, oh, they're like, "Oh my God, come on, come tell us what in the world just happened. Troy, get out of here. We need to talk to our good friend." Troy steps out and he ends up seeing Mike. And Mike, still acting like the fool that he is, sitting up there like, "Oh, look, it's Troy, the guy that married Mike's wife." He's like, "Well, somebody's ex-wife could be somebody else's treasure. You got a problem?" Do we have a problem? And then he sees Sheila. Mike sees Sheila and is like, "Oh." And this is when he comes to the realization, oh, she looking good now. She done lost the weight and all that. So Troy is now with Sheila. And fast forward to movie 2. So Troy, at this point, they're on a vacation, and he's a little frustrated because he didn't even really want to come on a vacation because of the fact that they were having a few financial troubles. Because now it's about 5 years later, and they've just had a baby. And their son is small now. And he's feeling like coming on that vacation was a little bit too much, and he only came because she wanted to come. She wanted to spend time with her friends. But somehow she managed to express to the guys, probably the exact same way that she did before, which led to a roundabout, that Mike knew that Troy didn't have no job because he had chose to move out to where all her friends were. But because he wasn't used to being there, he really didn't have anything to go on, meaning the type of environment that was, he left the solidity of, I got the sheriff's department house, I've got the property of the store, so I'm good. I have ownership of this, so I'm good. And there was some security there. But in going to move where Sheila wanted, because she wanted to be closer to her friends, especially now that she had the baby, he was dealing with some struggles. So he was dealing with the struggles of the adjustment period. He moved there and he didn't have a job. While they were on vacation, Sheila said something. And somehow Mike got information, and while they were playing the game, because they were playing some type of card game, in order to frazzle Troy, Mike throws out there in the middle of the game, "Oh, I know you see you ain't really had no job up there. Maybe I can help you out." And immediately Troy gives her a halfway side look like, you told somebody that told him if you didn't tell him directly. I ain't got no job. Are you serious? Because you know the male testosterone thing. And the fact of the matter is that they both had the same woman, so now they both are in competition of conversation because this is male chauvinistic foolishness that goes on between men over a woman. And um, later that night, he was like, you told? And she's like, I didn't mean to, and so on and so forth. But I had to readjust because of my power charger. You just charge my phone. But they're in their room arguing about Mike, and she ends up being like, well, if you feel that way, blah, 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 blah. It's like, maybe you should just leave then. He's like, leave? What are you talking about? It's like they were having a disagreement, and he figured, or she gave him the impression that she was expecting him to leave. So when it comes down to it, we find out that she has a bit of a trauma after dealing with Mike because of the fact that she thinks Troy's going to leave her. And that may have come from the way that Mike used to treat her. Because every time they may have gotten into it, he would always leave or something like that. I've been in a relationship like that when I would be pushed to the side, or I remember a particular incident that occurred in my last relationship where me and the person had a disagreement, and he got on the phone with somebody and pushed me out the room. And I was young at the time, so I didn't really think nothing of it. But the way that he pushed me out like I was his little sister, not his girlfriend.